Hey guys, it's Tom Box. Welcome to MST.TV's annual tradition of the top tier timeline series where I cover January all the way to December, all the top tier decks and every single influential event that happened to it. But this year was a little bit different because, well, there's not a lot of mainstream events, not a lot of YCSs to kind of capture stuff. So I had to look into LCSs. I'm not just going to capture like officially sanctioned events because those were very limited. And even with the limited events, there was a lot of a competition going on, whether or not be using actual products or using simulators. They are part of the top tier timeline and they have influenced the ban list nonetheless. So that being said, I haven't seen you guys in a while. Yes, my hair has grown really long. It's basically pandemic hair all over again, and I'm just gonna cover it up, guys. And while I'm covering it up, guys, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button, hit the like, hit subscribe, ding notification bell, and if I am missing anything in this timeline, leave it down in the comment section because I am trying to be as thorough as possible. I'm mainly just covering 7 of the top tier decks because if you have more than 10 decks in a top tier, which of these are actually top tier? And it's time to plug ourselves in. Let's do this, guys. Yes, I picked these up over the holiday. I think it's just actually very fun because I need a new pair of sunglasses for my car that recently got repaired from that crazy jerk that decided to vandalize my car. But let's jump into it. Apparently I actually made a title slide and I completely forgot about it. So yeah, title slide 2020 top tier timeline. Welcome to the show. Let's move on. January. Oh man, this is gonna be a fun year. Okay, starting with the 2019 leftovers, we have Subterra and Altergeist as the two main anti-meta decks that kind of moved forward. As for the rest of the meta, it was dominated by Orcus and all of its variants, Salamangreat and its variants. These are just super strong decks. They were just super cycling. True Draco, Sky Striker, or True Daco. Okay, apparently I wrote True Daco, but it's True Draco, Sky Striker, and Seyfert Thunder Dragon. Thunder Dragon, of course, Colossus still being live at the time. And yeah, these were the key 4 decks that just shaped up the entire meta. That is until Konami decided to play a game called The Purge with the ban list, and they purge everything like Electromite, if Justice Star, so that you can't do 1-card Dragon Link combo, although Dragon Link obviously this year didn't die at all. In fact, they just found different ways to play as more and more product came out to support it. Heart Horror got killed, so Orcus definitely took a backseat after Harp died because Harp Horror was such a consistent card. Even if Harp was left at 1, being able to cycle that 1 copy of Harp Horror would have basically meant the same thing. You just won't open it in your hand, which is fine because you typically didn't want to see it in your hand anyway. As the thought's gone because it didn't let people play Yu-Gi-Oh, and you know how it is. If it ain't fun, it's gonna be on the ban list. And Mirage Stalio forced Salamangreat players to change it up, but it did manage to work out for them. They actually did survive the ban list for sure. A Thunder Dragon Colossus, that was the threshold monster of 2018 and 2019. Surprise, surprise, being able to shut down all searches. And if your deck ran searches, Colossus just shut you down. It just made it almost impossible to play. So that threshold monster was gone, which made everything a lot easier. But as it got easier, I guess Engage for Sky Striker got banned as well. That was a major hit to them, and to play Engage, I guess if you don't have free pluses, a lot of people just drop the deck, except for maybe Ryan Yu, who continued to play with it and did actually manage to win an LCS with it this year. Then Dragonic Diagram got to put a 1 card, of Demise got to put a 1. Basically, Demise, True Draco, that was a very targeted hit, and they really... Well, after the Purge, guess what we came out with? We got more product. We have Magical Heroes, Magician Soul Hero support, and Yuma's Onomatopoeia stuff, you know, Zubaba, Gagaga, Gugugo. And I guess at the end of the month, we have Ignition Assault, which gave us mainly just Lightning Storm. Wind Pegasus, and I guess the only thing that was also relevant was like Time Thief Perpetua, which we did see in Luna Lights. So in terms of like residual decks, funny enough, we had heroes because people are trying out heroes at the time and building different kinds of hero boards. It was just a complete fresh ground. So a lot of experimentation did happen until the meta decided to settle itself in. Infernoids also saw play as well. Very strong Infernoid scene for a little bit. Luna Lights. Salamangreat we adapted, Altergeist we adapted, but I think the main combo deck that kind of stood out from the rest of us was the Magician Spiral deck, mainly because it was the Magician Soul that can dump the rescue and just set up the entire Unbreakable board. And that's kind of how January went, and to basically pushing forward into February. February would introduce a couple of new things. For February, we have one major product release, which was in the TCG Shaddoll Showdown Structure deck. That's a tongue twister, guys. Okay, so yeah, this structure deck has impact even to this day. And in terms of major event news, I think UDS, the last North American UDS happened, where the winner is Shunpeng Zhu. I managed to actually have a couple of videos with him as well. You guys can check it out. Rocket Dragon Link was the one deck that he piloted, and he took it all the way. He won the entire event. Now, that was not the actual last UDS. The last UDS event, I think it was in actually South America, and that was a different story altogether. But this was one, I think that did not happen in February. I believe that one happened in March. And as for YCS Utrecht 2020, Debris won with Salamangreat versus the top contender, the runner-up, Bertolezzi. I think that was Matteo Bertolezzi with 3-Axis Dragon Link. Impressive stuff. That actually influenced me to actually play 3-Axis Dragon Link for a little bit. And there was also Team YCS Vegas, Dominic Couch. There was also Silverman and Page. All of these guys, I believe they piloted Invoked, Shadal, and the other two were Dino decks. They were True King Dino decks. So looking into the top tier list here, True King Dinosaurs, clearly top tier. Rockets and 3-Axis Dragon Links, top tier stuff. These are all like top contenders. Infernos, we did make a little bit of a scene as well. Lunarlight Time Thief was starting to see a lot more play. That deck is actually very annoying to deal with, and especially started to manipulate with a timing of resolution a bit more. Salamangreat stuck around for a bit. In fact, Salamangreat was only going to get better over time because of the release of Eternity Code. And Invoke Shadow making a scene right away upon the release, and of course Magician Spiral. Everyone was kind of focused on tackling and breaking down Magician Spiral because that deck, that combo deck, everyone just hates the combo deck because it does so much, it makes an unbreakable board. Now moving on to March. Now for March, the major product release that changed the landscape of Yu-Gi-Oh! Entirely is Dual Overload. That set, or that product, is still influencing the game today. Krishna Hulky Fibrax, Predaplant, Verte Anaconda, Union Carrier, I guess even now that we have Herald, there's just a ton of good links that were supposed to be from the Link Brains pack, and they've basically been taking root right now and completely changed the game. And although the influence wasn't exactly immediate, it definitely did see a lot of change over time. And these products are just continuously going to influence the game. As for major news now, events were beginning to get canceled at this point. We're already transitioning to online events at this time, and that was a big deal because of COVID-19. That's unfortunate. However, in terms of the top tier decks at the time, not too much has really changed. Lost World Dinosaur, True King Dinosaur still around. Dragon Links have been popularized. Grand Maju decks have started to see a little bit of resurgence. Lunar Lights, Endymion Pendulum. I was kind of a bit surprised. I believe there was a couple of events where people did top with their Endymion Pendulum decks. I think it's thanks to an effort from Triff, really. I think Triff had a couple of videos out there that really pursued people to play with that deck. There's Invoke Shadal and Magician Spiral. Nothing really too much change right there. April comes around, and it's probably one of the biggest months in Yu-Gi-Oh! There's 3 major things that happen here. First of all, the ban list of 2020 April. Major hits thanks to Dual Overload. All of these were mainly adjusted to deal with, I guess, the current state of the level 3 Axis Dragon Link deck. There was the Rocket Dragon Link deck. It was meant to deal with Dragon Link, but mainly to deal with the Magician Spiral deck. So what got hit? Steam the Cloak, mainly for Hulky Fibrax. Destrudo, I think this was targeted more towards Dragon Links. Glow Bulb, that's for, of course, Hulky Fibrax, because that was just OP. Both Steam the Cloak and Glow Bulb were just 2 bodies in one. Too good to be true. Lunarlight Tiger, because it was free. This was the era where Yu-Gi-Oh! Was always cost-based. Like, oh, I'm going to activate my effect but pay the cost. And the only part of the effect you cared about was the actual cost part, because the cost part triggered more effects, and your opponent really can't stop anything. And if they let the other effect go through, you're just going straight ahead to victory where they can't even catch up anymore. So a lot of the cost-based stuff is gone. And speaking of which, I guess Spiral Master Plan was part of the equation, because the Magician Spiral gets to send this card into the graveyard basically as a cost to get a free summon, and that was ridiculous. Then there's also the Danger level 3 duo. Jackalope and Tsuchinoko got put to 1. Dryden got put to 1. Diva got put to 3. That was in preparation of a lot of the stuff coming from Eternity Code. But there's more. There's so much more going on. Master Rule change as well. Master Rule Revision 2020. Of course, this was Master Rule 5 for us. Fusion, Synchros, and Xyz monster are no longer bound by the link arrows. In other words, they can summon into the main monster zone. That was one part of it, I believe. I believe there's other parts, but in OCG, they also have like the location of, you know, triggers now matter because before, as long as they triggered, even if they got moved away from the location where they're supposed to activate, they would still activate. That is no longer the case. They basically play TCG-NA rules where you have to, basically it has to activate where it resolves. So that's the limitation. That's the whole Call the Haunted versus MST rule. And there is also trap monsters now no longer take up a zone in the spell and trap zone when they are on the field. So that was actually some of the major changes for the Master Rule, but those are quote-unquote OCG ones, so always ask your head judge for whichever event that you're playing whether or not those apply for the current event. And of course, major product release, like triple, you know, a triple hit combo here. We have a major product release with Secret Slayers. That was a major game changer. We have, of course, Adamancipators, Eldlich, and Rika Fairies. Rika Fairies kind of reeked. Adamancipators, they were very adamant, and Eldliches, they were liches. I don't know, I don't have a good joke for that one, but like they were in the format for a very long time. Adamancipators definitely lived for, well, they didn't really see that much official play, let's put it that way, but they definitely dominated the game, and because of the new Master Rule changes, they were 100% applicable in terms of the top tier. As for structure deck, we got Mechanized Madness, which completely fell under the radar because everyone thought that the Infernoble guys were going to get a structure deck, but we didn't. They got put into a different set, and that kind of upset a lot of people. But in terms of the top tier list, the shift right now, we're going to go into Lost World Dinosaurs. Dragon Link's still around because it's still a combo deck, but the best combo deck arguably was eventually going to move into the rock territory in terms of Adamancipators. Eldlich was around. Burning Abyss actually hit a top 8 in an event, which is why Burning Abyss is on this list. Invoke Shaddoll still around, and Mermails are starting to make a scene now. Now for May, let's go over to the decks first. We have Dinosaurs, which didn't really change all too much. I think they still have their VFD combo. As for Adamancipators, I think the deck has finally moved forward into comboing with, I think the initial start was to use the Onomata package. I believe they used Golems, basically the stuff that came out in Magical Heroes, to use that to set up the combo for Gallant Granite to get their search, get the attachment, the Union Carrier, Block Dragon, yada yada yada. That part was the initial phase of Adamancipators, but eventually it would even evolve even further. As for the Eldlich moved on to playing Synchro Eldlich through the use of Formula Synchron. That deck was super strong. One card combo setting up some of the nastiest boards in the game. Orcus, because of Eternity Code, definitely made a scene back. And Sky Striker, I think this was due to LCS3. Ryan Yu made a scene there. And I think for the PPG Online event, Madolche actually hit a top 8. And that's kind of where I would like to put that there. In terms of major releases, of course, there was a delay on Eternity Code for basically North America, but as for everywhere else, Oceanic, EU, Australia, they basically had access to Archosaur, Arctis, Axis Code Talker, Gyusu. There's just a ton of good cards. Link Cross, Gravedigger Hole, Uka. All these cards are going to have impact in this game for, well, a very long time. Well, except for Link Cross. Now it's banned, but it did have a major impact when it was first released. As for LCSs, of course, there's Eldlich. I guess we're finally looking at some of the online stuff. Sky Striker, Eldlich, Adamancipator, Dinosaur, and Orcus. These were, I guess, the most dominant decks at the time, early on, but eventually it would phase into just mainly being Adamancipator and I guess Eldlich and maybe Dragon Link and Dinosaurs. That really settled in for the most of the format, but that would actually make up most of May. In June, the decks have finally solidified for the next little bit. We have Dragon Link, and Dragon Link evolved into having the FTK using the Earthbound Immortal, Hummingbird, I think it's Ozlapisku, correct me if I'm wrong, and there's also the Lock build. It's interesting because Dragon Link's still around, not exactly the top contender in terms of combo, because the combo would be evolving from the Adamancipator deck. And as for the Dinosaur deck, still around, kicking live and strong. Synchro Eldlich is still basically now solidified its spot as one of the scariest deck of the format, because one card Jet Synchron can just lead you all the way, and it's like playing two separate engines that kind of, you just do one before the other so that you don't lock yourself out. And that's how important it was to actually build a giant board that was almost unbreakable, but secure it with the back row that made it super legit. Adamancipators, they started to cut out of the Yuma package, the Adamancipator and all that stuff, because they are starting to move their combo into using Link Spider, into going into Union Carry and setting it up that way. And you're starting to see a lot more Adharas, because Adhara let you be a lot more flexible, and we're starting to see people jump into using the unexpected die, because there's the beta and all that other fun stuff that they started to package into the deck. So Adamancipator evolving as well. Salamangreat. Oh yes, Salamangreat, of course, playing with the Parallel Xyz. Parallel Xyz was also releasing an Eternity Code. That gave them, I guess, a special place that you can say, because they have that Access Code Talker double hit OTK, which was very easy to kind of bait out. And because they don't have to build their standard boards anymore, they are still susceptible to Nibiru, but they have that crazy OTK, which only really requires 2 cards, which is why they are stuck around, and that's why they are still around. And they don't need to lock themselves into fire, because they're not going to be using Mirage Stalio. In terms of the ban list, there was, I guess, the one weird ban list of June, which was the one that gave Multi-Faker back to 3, Necros Unicorn back to 3, and Ritual Beast Ulticanahawk back to 3. Yeah, that was a strange one, because it was no events, so they couldn't really justify really banning anything at the time. But whatever it was, it did give Multi-Faker back to 3, and we're going to see a little bit more of Altergeist thanks to that. In terms of NA release, of course, we finally got Eternity Code, and I guess Toon Chaos didn't really matter as much at the time, because the Infernoble Renault was in there, and the Immortal Phoenix Gearfried. This had more of an impact, I guess, during Rise of the Duelist, more so than at this current point in time. But Chaos Space changed up the Dragon Link deck for sure, because this is where the exploration of being able to dig up your white and black dragons came into effect. July, I would say, is kind of a boring month for Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, there was no events at this time, because we're on full lockdown around the world, and no one really wanted to get sick. I didn't want to get sick, so deck lists more or less remained the same. Dragon Links, people online have started to adapt to these decks. FTK, they started to kind of pre-counter the deck, of course. Dinosaurs, still a strong deck. Thanks to the release of Eternity Code with Archosaur, the one-card combos with the Miscellaneous Source was just out of this world. It was just insane. You can set up VFD like super easy. But I'm not sure if it was just VFD, but they can set up their Dolkas, they can set up their Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Usually that's enough to control the board, and most of the time I think people were going into a Dweller more often than not, because Dweller being able to shut down a lot of the grave effects, it's super important, because Adamancipator had their block dragons, Eldlich had a lot of their stuff in the graveyard that they needed to activate, especially like Jet Synchron and all of the entire Eldlich package. But I guess one main change would be the Numeron Sub-Terror deck, or any of the Numeron variants. That's probably one of the biggest game changer in July, because that is when we got the product release of Battle of Legends Armageddon, where there's, of course, the most collectible 10,000 dragon, and there's also Astral Text Utopia, and there is the Jump dragons. I guess that's finally available to EU, so that's a major change. In terms of some of the major cards that were released, the Numeron cards, Fire Flint Lady, Miracle Rupture, that also improved Adamancipator even further, because that's additional Foolish Barrel for them. I think it's actually a pretty big deal. And in terms of structure deck release, we got the Sacred Beast structure deck, which was a very fun structure deck nonetheless, but it was definitely not a contender towards the top tier, because everything else was just far too strong. And Legendary Duelist Season 1 was released around this time as well. I guess you can get your reprints of Millennium Eyes Restrict. I suppose that was really about it for July. Now in August, typically it would be World Season, however, there was no World. World was canceled. YCS Minneapolis was also canceled. There was just a ton of canceled stuff going on. We were hoping for the best, but that did not come around. But we did get, Megatins, and Megatins only gave us really one meta adaptable card, which was Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. didn't really exactly have too much of an impact on the initial release. It's thanks to the release of other cards as well that kind of came about with it, because Rise of the Duelists also came out with Forbidden Droplets, Dogmatica, Triple Tactics Talent, Ice Dragon's Prison. Basically anything that's necessary to counter Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. So Red Eyes Dark Dragoon did not take off like it did in OCG. And of course Infernobles, the rest of Infernobles was released here. And with this major release, that completely reshaped the meta for the most part. But before that, there would also be one official event that I also participated in, the Remote Duel Invitational. Dinosaurs won with Team Samurai X1, and Adamancipator took a second place with Cody Angeloff playing the Adamancipator. Everyone knew the Adamancipator. Like, a lot of us were playing like fake deck, like quote, not really fake decks, but like off decks, so that we wouldn't really showcase what we were going to play. But I think ideally most people that were going to be playing combo were going to go into Adamancipators, just because Adamancipators insanely strong. It was just one of the decks that can combo through Nibiru, can push through a lot of stuff, bait Nibiru, and eat at least 2 hand traps, and you can just look at an additional extender and keep going. That's how strong it was. And yeah, that's how the decks kind of move forward. So in terms of the top tier decks of the format, there was a ton of playable stuff. Dragon Link still being very strong. It's still just one of those decks that can lock you out with the Buster Lock. It's just what they do. But really, I think it was completely overshadowed at the time by Adamancipator, because Adamancipator took the biggest hit after this. Dinosaurs, although they won, they didn't really take any kind of hit in the upcoming ban list. Synchro Eldlich was still kind of around. I think a lot of people are starting to shift towards control builds with Eldlich because of the Dogmatica. We've seen a lot of Eldlich Dogmaticas. Subterra Dragoon, because with the release of Dragoon, we're starting to see people play control decks that do not require a special summon. They go into Vertia Anaconda, or they max out on their Red Eyes Fusion. So that's how that format's starting to shape up, and you're going to see this kind of effect move forward for the rest of the year. And as with Dogmatica, of course, with the release of Dogmatica, we're the first top contender for the Dogmatica would be the Invoke Shaddoll Dogmatica, because Rise of the Duelists was such a crazy good set, I would say, that influenced like many parts of the game that we see today, such as Shaddoll Schism. So Shaddoll Schism is the one that let people get out their window really early. So locking people out of playing Yu-Gi-Oh has been such an essential thing, because if Adamancipator get locked out from many summons, then they can't really build their board. Same with Dinosaurs, same with Dragon Links, and for all combo decks for that matter. So Dogmatica definitely put everything in check. Now Infernoble became that one deck that basically won as long as they resolved their entire combo, because they rip your whole hand apart, they can't play, and that's it. And at this point in time, because Link Cross was not banned, and O-Lion also was not banned, they can do their full combo and finish you off. Basically, you have like 3 cards to play against their 3 negates and 1 pop. It's a heck of a ride if you let them go off. So that's why they're still around too. And they were one of the most annoying decks. In terms of like toxicity about not letting people play, Infernobles was just way up there, especially with Smoke Grenade, because Smoke Grenade was pretty disgusting. Okay, and so we're hitting the other ban list. Actually, funny enough, look, if you look at up here, you would see that we actually had 5 total ban lists this year, which means I guess some of them came earlier than others. Typically, we wouldn't get 4 ban lists per year. This year, we kind of got 5. I guess December, it's not like a full ban list. We're not going to see another ban list until what, March? But sure, why not? But moving into the September, when we hit September, we got a ban list. Block Dragon was banned because Block Dragon was just OP. People did not, like, you can't even put this card at 1. I argued that maybe you put it at 1, it would be susceptible to DD Crow. Nope, Konami wasn't having any of that. They decided to purge that whole list, but mainly just kill off Block Dragon, Jet Synchron, and O-Lion. So the Eldlich Synchro and the Adamancipator deck were the 2 decks that took the biggest hits, I would say. Infernobles, they remain relatively unhit for that matter. Look at Link Cross is still around, and they don't really need O-Line to actually build their combo. They can still do their entire combo just fine and rip you apart, because they can just play with Neospace Connector and just build their combo from there. And definitely they were able to adapt and replay out their entire deck. O-Line was a big part of the deck too. Everyone just like I just remember, like in September, everyone just focused on, oh man, how do I fix my Infernoble deck? Okay, Adamancipator is gone, but a lot of people that were playing Dragon Link at the time knew that this is the time for them to stand up, because Dragon Link definitely came out of the shadows from the remains of the Adamancipator ruins. Yeah, and the weird hit of the year was probably a Call by the Grave to 1. Okay, we all know that probably this was to push people into playing Triple Tactics Talent, and Duster got put to 1, so the control decks wouldn't be like too insane. Like when Dogmatica first came out, like it was just so hard to play. But if you have Harpies Feather Duster, that matchup was like so easy. But we already had Lightning Storm, but Lightning Storm wasn't exactly accessible to everyone because it was such an expensive card. It was hitting, it probably is in the 100 range right now, but being able to get Harpy's Feather Duster for everyone, and it was a much cheaper card in comparison, and ideally just did the same thing. It was a happy release for anyone not playing Dogmatica. And Rusty Bardiche got put back to 1 because I think Phantom Rage already had its announcement, and most of the BA cards were put to 2 at this time, like Seer and Graph. Product release, I don't think there was anything too crazy here. Dragons and Legends Complete Series, and I guess if you wanted to go Ghost Raw, that was it. This set didn't really exactly have too much for people to kind of really chase after. So in terms of the top tier decks, Dinosaurs, Dragon Links, Eldlich, Dogmatica, Subterra Dragoons was still around. It's such a strong deck because you just do your Dragoon thing, set a card, activate field spells, do your thing, and yeah, you got enough negate for, you know, this game all the way to the entire match, I would say. And Invoke Dogmatica stuck around in Infernobles that readapted to the format to the point where I guess they lost their most insane combo where they would actually end with an additional boss, but people have readapted their Infernoble decks to play with Power Tool Dragon as an alternate route, and Living Fossil and Power Tool and DDR, they were the alternative cards to actually cycle cards around, and you started to see people play with like Plague Spreader and stuff like that. Now most of the tournament results now are coming from LCS. In October we had a Dragon Maid top 8, Dinosaur still around, Dragon Link's super strong because of the Buster Lock combo that we established. It's so, I guess it's fun for one, I guess, but there's also the Buster Blader deck. I'm not gonna miss out on this one. There was a couple of Buster Blader decks that also hit the top because so many people were just playing Dragon Links that Buster Blader became a natural counter to them, because they can't really play once the Buster Blader fusion comes out. Everything can't activate. It's over basically. It was pretty rough. Dragoon Sky Striker also hit a top, and Invoke Dogmatica and Infernobles, that part never really changed. Seems like Dogmatica is here to stay, and same with the Invoke stuff as well. In terms of product release, EU got their Spirit Charmer structure deck, which was released in November in North America, and that's it really for October. Look, we're going into November now. That was just last month. Phantom Rage, major game changer, changing up the entire meta just overnight basically because of the release of Virtual World. Virtual World, I knew it was going to be super strong. Well, also Konami like kind of gave me the full coverage already because I had to cover the the entire deck in that video. And AA Zeus, Divine Arsenal, Sky Thunder, Alpha Master of Beasts, Mutants got added in, Phantom, like basically Phantom Knights got a revamp with the additional monsters of the Torn Scales. It was just a major change in terms of the entire scene because a lot of generic monsters were being able to, well, they were just able to splash in now. Now in the previous ban list, Zodiac Dryden got put to 1, but thanks to Zeus's easy summoning condition put Zodiac easily back onto the map. Originally, people played Zoo just to go into Mega Clops, and Mega Clops would just dominate over the Dragon Link deck because there's no Xyz monster in the Dragon Link deck, so they would just win with Mega Clops. But people found outs, of course. People just imperm the monster and just call it a day and just run it over or just pop it off, and it was easy. However, now with Zeus, a lot more people are loading up their extra deck with ways to stack up double Zeus, and Zeus is not once per turn, nor once per chain for that matter. Zodiacs are able to do full board wipes. People are splashing Zodiacs with just pure Zoo, or they go into Eldlich Zoo or Eldlich Zoo Dogmatica. Lots of variants there. Dinosaurs, still there. I don't think they're going away just because they are the one deck that is so capable of breaking boards when they're going second. Like, UCT, a main deck monster that's easy to summon, can attack everything, big enough to survive, and can book everything face down, non-targeting. It is just one of those monsters that you have to fear, and they also have the package of Dalka, Lagia. I guess not a lot of people run Lagia, but you still have the Dalka sitting around negating all your effects, and miscellaneous sources. Blanket negation, or rather blanket protection, is the thing that makes them so hard to deal with, because you have to answer to them so early. The only thing you can really do to that is like Ash and stuff in the graveyard, because the stuff they control, all the dinosaurs they control, you can't hit them with anything. And that's actually the thing that makes it problematic. And you can't really, it's hard to hit them with a Nibiru because, well, there's Dalka that's going to negate it. And Dalka also is not once per chain, making it also very difficult to beat. Dragon Link still around, I would say. Dragon Link didn't really lose anything. However, with the release of Phantom Rage, the biggest change is that the top deck is no longer Dragon Link, because Virtual World naturally counters Dragon Link sitting on a Shen Shen. Shen Shen, forcing all the stuff on the field to get banished, does not let Dragon Link combo. And the ability to go into VFD non-stop, like double VFD, and the way to dodge imperm makes them to be the true force to be reckoned with, because of course you can always pop your own VFD when they target with an imperm, making the amount of counter options limited. Imperm is not an option. You have to use stuff like Forbidden Droplets, for instance, because it cannot respawn. And even then, they can't respawn. Like, the thing is, you have to be able to set a trap, or else they're going to respawn, and it's just annoying. And yeah, Virtual World being the VFD making machine. There's also Prank Kids gaining their Meow Meow Moo. I think that was the kicker, so that one Prank Kids monster can set up the entire combo on its own, giving Prank Kids a whole new level of consistency. Invoke Dogmatica started to see a lot more play. Like, at one point, because everyone expected Maximus, people pre-counted towards it, but near the end of, I would say, the past 2 months, people have cut out Maximus out of their deck, especially during the August time. People didn't want to play with Maximus, like, oh, it's going to be expected. People are going to put in the stuff in the side deck, like Entices, they're putting their Cyberdragon Novas in there, and counter it. And that's exactly kind of what they did for a while, but then they took it out because they're like, oh, what a waste of extra deck space. So then people kind of put it back in, and losing chunks of your extra deck hurts a lot. So the Maximus stuff has been put back in, and the Shaddoll engine has been put back in as well. So the Shaddoll stuff is with the Schism, it's going to lock people out, and since most of these combo decks require a ton of summons, it is a viable strategy nonetheless. It's like a combo where you can always guarantee a floodgate. And Infernoble's still around. They didn't really lose anything, but this has been a major change in the format. But as you can see, once Rise of the Duelists kind of came out, the formats have been slowly shifting away from just being purely combo based into more control oriented. In fact, it's just going to be reinforced once again into December. And in December, we got a product release of Genesis Impact, which give us Drytron, Evil Twins, and Majestas. Evil Twins, don't sleep on this deck. It's only being overshadowed by, I guess, Zodiac. And if Zodiac dies, Evil Twins is a very, very compatible with a lot of other anti-meta. And seeing that someone actually managed to get their invite for their remote invitational qualifier, it's kind of neat as well, especially with Evil Twins. Okay, but anyways, there was also a major ban list that kind of came down, because one thing that was suppressing the entire format was the Dragon Buster lock. It's just that every deck needed some way to kind of break this particular play. You know, the whole Heraldic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. You have your, what was it? The Herald of Arc Light paired with a Borreload Savage Dragon. And that is also equipped with a Buster Sword. You know, no extra deck access, and being able to do three form of disruption can break anyone. So that got banned. Link Cross got banned, and Smoke Grenade got banned. I don't think that that's actually too bad, especially with Smoke Grenade. Smoke Grenade deserve to go away, because anyone that resolved the Smoke Grenade 90% of the time won the game. In fact, for an Infernoble deck, anyone that is able to successfully resolve their Aqua Dolphin 90% of the time won the game, because they knew how they would be able to counter, especially the pros. All good. BA gets to go full power, and ABC gets completely unlimited. So I think with the Genesis Impact stuff that introduced Drytron made a splash right away, thanks to Jesse Cotton, of course. And looking into it, Zodiac still around, and Zodiac has all their variants. Most of the dinosaur decks are still around. I believe dinosaurs are still hit among the top contenders. Ryan, you, and I guess the only thing I really lost to during the last extravaganza was mainly dinosaurs. One was close and the other was a complete I guess thrash thrown to the wall, smashed back onto the ground, and just planted into the ground. Basically, I got completely trashed by dinosaurs. They're just so strong. Drytrons, insanely consistent deck. People are just going to counter this deck preemptively now. People are starting to run crackdowns to take over their vanities. Ruler, it's a very effective way to actually win the game automatically in game one. Just take the vanity ruler and the game is over. They don't have any negations for this. They don't have any way to play. Do they run Dark Hole? I don't think they do. And I've seen a lot of people starting to run Dark Holes and Raigekis just to take out the Vanity's ruler, which is, I think, fine because that deck does not run Herald of the Green Light, which is fair. But I guess in that case, you might as well try to run the Herald of Mirage Lights to kind of sit him there. Virtual World, still the top deck of the format, probably one of the best deck. Of course, without the Buster Lock and without Link Cross, they were no longer allowed to play their full combo for Dragon Link. I haven't really seen a Dragon Link top since then, since the ban, of course. Then there is Prank Kids. Prank Kids got even stronger because the thing that was overshadowing them was kind of Dragon Links. And Invoke Dogmatica, still very strong. And as for the Eldlich deck are now all just Dragoon decks. Yes, they're all just Dragoon Eldlich because Dragoon's just so strong. Dragoon's a win con on its own, and he's a blowout card. You need to handle him. He puts you on the clock right away just by simply existing. You can't set cards because he'll blow them up and then he'll attack you. And if you want to destroy him, well, you can't be destroyed. So in other words, all your back row is pure disruption, whereas Dragoon guarantees that those disruptions are going to go through. So people are starting to probably play stuff like Kaiju. They're starting to see main deck Kaijus. You're going to see people like run Ukas just to prevent stuff from going off. It's just how it was with all the control decks. They just like to run Dragoon because Dragoon secures everything. Ironically, like people like to combo them off too, like end them with like, I'm running my Drytrons with the Dragoon package just because everyone thinks that after 2 hand trap the game is over. But if you show them that you are able to put a Dragoon out after the fact, using your 1 negation properly can possibly keep you alive. And if you draw into any Drytron with the Dragoon already on the board, I don't think you're going to run into any problems killing your opponent. And considering that the damage reach with the Dragoon is already there, it's a fun way to play. In my opinion, that's what I'm doing right now anyways. But that kind of covers the entire top tier timeline of things that affected various things. As you can see, dinosaurs never died. I'm hoping that dinosaurs do take a little bit of a hit in the upcoming year. It almost feels like dinosaurs became the Thunder Dragon of 2020 because Thunder Dragons, they didn't get touched at all for the longest time. If you think about it, all through 2019, Thunder Dragons, they were there. They didn't take any hits. I feel like dinosaurs took the exact same spot where they were the one deck that you could play all year. So I don't know if dinosaurs are going to live for very long in the upcoming year in March. March could be the extinction event for dinosaurs for a little bit. Maybe put the miscellaneous away. I don't know, because they have easy 1-card combos. They have the most amount of searches. They have triple fossil digs. Why am I talking about dinosaurs? And yeah, they're just a really strong deck overall. So there's that. As for virtual worlds, I don't see them getting hit that hard at all in the future. Prank Kids, neither. Dragoon, I think, might start to see a little bit of wavering. Maybe they'll put it to 1. I'm not too sure. Unless control decks are really that out of control. Because right now, I feel like Drytron might be overshadowing everything. And Ben 10 and Natasha combo. That combo is just insane, guys. And I think that's it. That's the entire year, guys. If I missed anything, leave it down in the comment section. If you guys enjoyed this top tier timeline, or maybe this is going to help you refresh if you ever want to like feel nostalgic about 2020. Oh, remember that year where we had no events? What happened in that top tier? Well, this video is for you guys to kind of break down everything. A lot of this stuff is actually based off of LCS research. I've been kind of scrolling through their Facebooks and their top decks. I wish I could mention all the people that top, but that's not exactly what this is about. But this is what I got for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. MST.TV. I'll see you guys next year. I'm going to do more skits. Finally going to have some time to do merch work. I kind of well, because of the pandemic, it was just not possible. I was mid-move. I moved twice this year, and that was pretty rough on my side. So there's that. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy it. Have a great end of the year. Happy holidays, and I look forward to seeing you guys in 2021.